All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the WTCF podcast. It's Charlie here hanging out at the house and wanted to go through this week's intention. And maybe this is something that helps you. Seek not the good in external things, seek it within yourself. So, as we go through our life, a lot of these external factors come into play of what kind of creates value to us. It could be something as approval from somebody else or somebody saying something nice. Can be really, really nice feeling. But when we go ahead and validate ourselves on these external things, it can be really, really tough, especially if we're not like living up to every standard that we set, or maybe someone else doesn't recognize the same standard that we're setting. Uh, so it can be really, really difficult. I've approached it this week as a two front war, which is always really hard to do, but I wanted to make sure that I looked at it from like two different perspectives. On one side, I wanted to look at it as, seek not the good and external things. So, like validation from other people, people telling me that I'm good or whatever, knowing that I don't really need that to find intrinsic value within myself. I recognize that within me and how I act, I try to do the best that I can. I recognize that I'm going to make mistakes along the way, but I don't need like other people's approval to go ahead and prove that I'm doing the right thing. For some people, it can be really the only true metric of us understanding it. So, case in point, if anybody's following along with the show, The Boys, if you can take the gore, you can take the show. One of the characters in it, his name is Homelander, and his his whole MO is basically he's like evil Superman with an ego issue. So he always has to be the smartest, bravest. So think if we went politically, there's somebody, one of the people running it, who's just an egomaniac. So this individual was raised explicitly to seek after approval of very specific people. And this can be incredibly difficult on somebody's psyche because, again, once you're not meeting that standard anymore, you can go off the deep end really quickly. And I think the show was doing a fantastic job of kind of showing this, this validation process is kind of toxic in its own right. It's to really look within yourself and say, am I living up to the standards that I set? Am I being a good person based on the standards that I set? And trying to learn from that. So not really seeking the good from external things, having people tell you that you're constantly good. On the other side of that coin, I've looked at it more along the lines of trying to obtain things. So whether it be goods, something like that. So, hey, it'll finally make sense. My life will get so much better once I have a new car, or I get the house, or I get the job, or when I finish the project, or when I go on vacation. Like, hey, everything will make sense when this outside thing happens, and then suddenly I'll be okay then. It can be really tough because a lot of times we'll finish up on that task or we'll achieve that goal and we'll just blow right past it and on to the next thing. And I think it can be really, really difficult and daunting. So it's like, hey, you know what? It's like somebody's struggling a little bit and their goal is like, man, everything will get better if I just get this job. Then they go ahead and they get the job. It's like everything will be just all right if I can get through this thing at work. And everything will be just all right if I can get through. And everything will be just all right if I can get past, and all we keep on doing is kicking that bucket down the road, and we're missing out on a lot of opportunities of recognizing some of the intrinsic value. Like getting a new job can be kind of tough. Getting into a new environment can be really tough, and kind of recognizing those good things within ourselves as, hey, it's not just the fact that this external event needs to happen, that we can find happiness along the way. Now, not every moment is going to be all like rainbows and butterflies, but there's going to be some opportunities of us to like look within ourselves and actually seek some self-worth that's like independent of everything else that's around us. So the quote itself, I believe, does come from Epictetus. So he speaks a lot about finding like happiness within. So learning from that perspective, understanding that that mindset allows us to remain steadfast and content regardless of what's happening around us. So sometimes it can just be to sit and meditate a little while or recognize things like gratitude that are going to be really helpful for us to start to, recognize some of the good things within ourselves. And another good piece of that is to practice self-awareness. Take time to reflect on your values and the things that are important, like what truly matters, like what helps you feel fulfilled, and how do you spend more time doing those things. And we do have to be kind of careful because some things out of moderation can be really, really bad for us. So some things might not be like, hey, I wish I can sit around and do this all day. might not be the healthiest thing, but we should be aware enough to recognize like the things that bring us joy and how do we spend more time doing those things and setting a healthy boundary around all those. So if we go ahead and kind of practice this a bit for ourselves and not worry about these external factors of what's going on, that if we look inward and say, all right, am I moving closer to the goals that I set out for myself? If it is like, hey, you know what, I'm just trying to be happy. Am I surrounding myself with things that are making me happy? Am I surrounding myself with people who are making me feel happy and uplifted and supported? And if not, it might be time to go find another group or another way to spend your time. And that could take some time and it's really, really difficult and gets you out of your comfort zone. But sometimes getting out of our comfort zone is a way for us to grow as well. So instead of worrying about other people's opinions of you, what is your opinion of yourself? What are the things that are truly important? And make sure that you can give yourself a fair amount of like gratitude and appreciation for the things that you're working on. On that note, good luck.